member. So he gets a little billing here.
That's from the song in the movie, On the Rogue Again, right?
Exactly. We sing that every time we go back up there. Little lounging around. The Rogue is a heck of a long ways away. It's way over here in southwestern Oregon. They allow 120 people a day to go down the river from May 15th to October 15th. Then out of that season, they don't require a permit. There are people that don't claim their permits. They open those spots up, and on May 5th, you can call the BLM office that's in charge of the Rogue River and see if they have spots on a day that you would want. And I should say first, it's a lottery like the other rivers. That's your first method of getting a permit. The second is calling on the phone on May 5th. The third is you can just show up. If you're ready to put on the river and people haven't shown up by 2 p.m., they open up those spots and you can go, and I've done that. Typically, it's a very small group that can fit on, like we had 3 people one time who got that day of permit. It's a wild and scenic. It was one of the first rivers in the Wild and Scenic Act. And let's see here. I wanted to share some logistics with you because it's a heck of a long ways from here. Just driving from Denver to the put-in, you've got a 20-hour commitment. So, you know, you're going to want to spread that out over a couple days. So I tend to try to find something of interest along the way. And there's a northern route, and I need to move, where you go to the Tetons and Jackson Hole, Craters of the Moon. You can go to Crater Lake, which is in here somewhere. But the roads are closed to Crater Lake right now. So I couldn't do it on Google Map. Then Bandon Beach, and there's a trail of a scenic byway with a bunch of waterfalls. The Umpqua Scenic Byway and Bandon Beach are about in this area. And I want to show you.
Do you know why the Crater Lake is closed? Sorry to interrupt. I'm going to ask questions as we go along.
Snow.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. They open it up in the summertime, but you can't even camp there after, I want to say September 5th, maybe a little bit later. They close the park to campers because it's just unreliable with maintaining the roads in and out.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Because most people haven't heard of Bandon Beach, I wanted to share a few pictures from Bandon Beach with you guys. It is a magical place. So those are a couple of my pictures and a couple of buddies of mine over the years.
Chuck, did you say that is north in Oregon?
Yeah, it's about, well, it's in the southern side of Oregon, but it's north of the Rogue River.
Uh-huh. So
I don't know if you can see my mouse. Are you able to see my mouse?
No, I'm not here.
That's too bad. It's about halfway between Galice and Eugene on the shore.
So how much time does that add? Do you want to allow a day to go visit there?
I would add a day to go visit there so that you can get there after you take out. If you're going to do the northern route after the river, that's the easiest way to do it. It's tough to get back to Galice from Bandon Beach. it adds a lot of time. So you do Bandon Beach, you have the evening there and the next morning, and then you take the Umpqua Scenic Byway, and there's like 15 waterfalls, amazingly beautiful waterfalls that you pass on this scenic byway, and you got to go hike up to each one, sort of thing, pretty much. So definitely give it another day.
Saying that it doesn't make sense to go to it before a run on the road. It's something you would do after the run on the road, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's inconvenient to get to, and get to Galice. It adds a lot of time.
Okay, so you just do it afterwards. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Thanks.
And then southern route sightseeing. And I've done this trip a couple of times from here. Go to Redwood National Park. Now, Google Maps didn't do what I usually do. I usually go over to Redding and then down Highway 5 to Yosemite, hit Mono Lake, drive as fast as I can across Nevada, and then visit a few parks in Utah.
We did
Again,
the
that's-
reverse of that. I think I remember Jennifer was along on the trip out. We got off the road and then we headed south and saw the various redwood parks on the way down the coast into California.
It was really fun. It was super fun.
It's amazingly beautiful. There's also south of the Redwood National Park is a section of land that hosts the only species of Roosevelt, the only herd of Roosevelt elk. It's just about extinct.
Wow.
And you can go see Roosevelt elk down there, just south of Redwood. The Rogue River check-in, it's pretty typical stuff for the most part. But the toilet system is an interesting thing that you can do. If you've got a small group, you can use a 5-gallon bucket with a screw-on lid. Like you can get those screw-on lids from Costco, where you really seal it tight around the edge and then you screw it on. And you can use wag bags or biffy bags in there. And you don't have to use a groover, like a standard groover. And we've done that for groups of like 8 people, where we used a wag bag every night. We'd set it up with a new wag bag, close it up and seal it, and then have a real easy light groover rather than the heavy groover that we often carry. What's also nice is if you take 2 of those systems, you can split your group into 2 parties. There's no reserved camps. And this is the 2-party thing. And whoops. I got ahead of myself there. 2 launches are allowed as long as each group has a toilet system. This pays off so that early risers can get going, and maybe they never ever use that toilet, but they've got it along so they can claim a camp, because the camps are kind of contested on the Rogue River. And if you don't get an early start, you're quite likely not to get a camp of choice. The Oregon, and I just learned about this, I've never done it. Oregon has a waterway access permit required for all non-motorized boats over 10 feet. I've never done this. So do it at your own risk. I will do it in the future now that I learned. But that's only if you're going above or below the wild section. You don't need that waterway access permit for the wild section, which is about 34 miles. And it's about a to a 6-day. We've stretched it out to 6-day trips and had 2 layovers on the trip. And PFDs are required to be worn for the class 3 and above rapids. And you'll see a lot of people swimming, floating without their PFDs on. I take mine off all the time on day 3 because it's just little class 2 stuff, nice pushy class 2. And did you have a question?
Speak out, or am I jumping ahead on you?
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm open to questions.
I was going to say, what do you typically take out? The time we did it, I recall, last was we went pretty close to the ocean. And we
Yes.
had jet boats zipping up. Those are phenomenal jet boats. You know, they have like 50 or 100 people on, 8 seats, 10 seats across. It's phenomenal. But on the lower section, you hit that.
And yeah, typically take out at Foster Bar, and you're jumping ahead there. But that's fine. If you're there on a nice hot summer day and a jet boat's coming, if you spin your hand like this and make it even more exaggerated, I'm doing it so it shows on the Zoom camera, the jet boat will come and spin and just splash you with the biggest wave ever. And they have a blast doing it, and it's just good fun. But don't do it when it's a cold day up there.
Miles
So here,
total, or did you already say that? Did you say how many miles the stretch is?
it's 35. They don't, it's 34. They
Oh, it
say
says right
34
here.
to 38 miles here. You typically put in at Grave Creek and you take out at Foster Bar. That's the wild and scenic section. Then you can go down below Foster Bar, like Wayne and Peggy did, and I'll have to pull on their knowledge because I've never chosen to do that.
Do you know how many extra miles that is if you go down below Easter Bar, or you're not sure?
You can go about 25, 30 miles more to get down to the ocean, and you can actually raft all the way to the ocean to a city called Gold Beach.
I can jump in here too. Like
Oh,
we
yeah,
talked
go for
about
it.
going to the ocean, but the current was just getting so slow and it just started to become, so we got out, but we had a wonderful night in Gold Beach too. And it does slow way down, of course, where you start to get to where the ocean's pushing more water upstream. It was beautiful though. And I loved being with Wayne and Peggy on that trip. And it does slow way down. That's just something to consider. Not very bad winds though.
Those camps was just on a gravel bar. It wasn't,
thought
it
several-
was not nearly as beautiful as the wild and scenic section.
Yeah, the camps get less interesting.
Yeah,
True.
and I've chosen to run it back to back to back sometimes, where I was able to get permits, get a permit, and had friends get permits on either end, and I got one in the middle and was able to do it 13 out of 14 days on the river one year. And another year I went up there and just walked up to the ranger station and got on the river for a trip before a friend had another permitted trip.
Chuck, have you ever done the stretch above the wild and scenic?
Yeah, he does it.
I have done some of it. I've done about 10 miles and it's all class 2 stuff. It's nice, it's pushy. So you don't have to roll a lot, but it's not big excitement. It's beautiful. It's still scenic, but it's part of the scenic river, but it's not part of the wild river. So there's a town, Galice. You can see it in the bottom right of the map. I call it a town. It's actually more of a general store and a bunch of rafters hanging around. And they've got a pretty good breakfast if you want to get that on the morning of your put in. It's got a decent shop with last minute little doodads in case you forgot stuff. So it's a good stop. There's gosh, you can arrange your shuttle there as well. So it's kind of a one-stop shop. There used to be pit toilets at almost every campsite on the Rogue River, and they have been getting rid of them. So when you go to the ranger station to do the check-in, they'll tell you what campsites still have pit toilets. There's lodges along the river. I don't know that they're marked on this bar, but I will bring that up later on. There's also a footpath the entire length of this river on the north side of the river. So you will see hikers and remains of hikers, i.e. toilet paper and what goes with toilet paper, where they didn't bury it well enough because they don't carry it out like we do. So I've run into that a few times, and I typically let the rangers know when I see that sort of thing. I want to talk about prior to the wild and scenic section. And here's another thing to go see while you're there is the Sotar Raft Factory is just within a few miles. Down in the bottom right of the middle right, it says to Merlin, exit 61. That's the road that you take to get there from I-5 to get to the Rogue River. And Sotar is right on that road. Indian Mary is a wonderful campground. It's got nice grass that they've planted, and they water it and keep it really pretty. You can put in from there, but it's a long day to get. At the very top of the map is Grave Creek. It's a very long day to get to the put in from Grave Creek. I like to camp at Alameda Bar, which is this Alameda County Park that you see on the map near the top. And it's about 4 miles from the official put into the wild section. And it's nice, pushy class 2s. So you get a bit of a warm up because 2 miles into the wild section, you come to Rainy Falls. And Rainy Falls is a class 5. And I do have a video of me running that disastrously. So we'll see if we can watch that, how that works on this. And you must check in to the BLM Smolin Ranger Station by 2 p.m. or they release your permit. Now, I'm giving you the highlights here of the river features. Rainy Falls is a class 5. There's 3 routes. And you scout it from the left. I'll show you some more pictures and go into more detail in a bit. Mill Creek Canyon is an amazing place where the river narrows. I mean, there are places where if your raft is sideways in the river, you'll be touching both walls of the canyon. This canyon gets to be, the water in the canyon is like 120 feet deep, and it creates some of the strangest boils. I'll talk more about that in a bit. Blossom Bar is the big rapid that you have to run. And it's a labyrinth of huge rocks, and you've got to make a very critical move at the top, or you could spend some quality time on some rocks that they call picket fence. I'll show you that in a few minutes here.
Yeah, I'll just jump in real quick too. So Chuck just talked about picket fence. It creates one of our river hazards. It creates a big sieve like amongst all these rocks. So it's really good to stay away from that. And also, if there are any other River Wild, Meryl Streep fans out there, some of the rapids that were filmed in that movie are actually from our beautiful Rogue River. So.
That is true. And I learned that they ran a cable underneath the water and had the raft with eye hooks on the cable through Blossom Bar to get the raft to go exactly where they wanted it to go for the movie.
I didn't know that. But I do know Meryl did run a lot of her own, did run the raft most of the time, that she chose to run it and only used her second on some of the really harder stuff. So that
Yep.
makes sense that they had it hooked up to some eye hooks to help get her through.
And if you really want to be go back in movies, How the West Was Won with Debbie Reynolds, she went over Rainy Falls on a wooden raft. It was flowing huge. The typical flow on the Rogue River, it's dammed and it's pretty stable. The average flow is between 1,500 and 2,500. That doesn't belie the size of the water, because it feels like a much higher flow river. I don't know why that is, but being on that river, I would say it's equivalent to some river that flows like 10 or 15,000 CFS. The highest I've ever run it is 8,000, and it was Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. The lowest I've run it is about 1,200, and it was pretty bony at that time. It was really tough. I actually spent some quality time on picket fence on that run because there was just no space. Here's Rainy Falls picture taken from the right-hand side, and you can see it's just crazy water in here. They say it's about a 15-foot drop overall. Now, at the far side of this picture, you've got some grass clumps out there that you can see right across the water. There's the middle chute, and it's a wonderful chute to go down, but it's a pain in the rear to try to get through the rocks up top. Very few people take their gear boats over Rainy Falls itself. The middle chute here is great for taking gear boats down, but you've got to really rock dodge. You can see just numerous rocks up here. At the far side of this picture, kind of out of the picture, is the fish ladder. And they blasted this ladder to promote salmon spawning up the river. They blasted it out and made a channel over there. And that's how most people go down Rainy Falls. And I've got a little video here. Is this choppy or is it coming across okay?
Little choppy.
Right turn, forward.
I'm the captain of this paddle raft.
Keep it straight and push it. Everybody forward hard. Little bit of a right, little right. Okay, forward.
Nice.
Two people managed to stay in the boat,
Warm up.
and it's always the same two people. It's the two people up front.
Eddie out.
It sucks. The waterfall sucks people out of the back of the boat for some reason. At this flow, at 2,500. Running it at 1,500 is okay, and running it above about 4,000 is okay.
You're such a good paddle captain. I love that you're still yelling directions from the water. Like, Eddie out, okay, we did. The rest of us will meet you over there.
Yeah, I was ready to float down the whole river as long as everybody else got out okay.
No, were these your friends that were in this boat with you, or?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm trying to see everybody. Apparently, we had one guy get washing machined under the waterfall for about 20 or 30 seconds.
So
That's the
what-
boat I took that over, and the 2 people are in it there.
What line did you take there of the 3?
That was over the waterfall, and it's
Throw me a line.
gosh, you can't go far left. You need to be out a little bit away from the wall because there's a big hydraulic that comes in. So I was, I don't know, 10 feet out from the wall. That was a nice throw. And I held on to my paddle. You can see I still have my paddle there too.
I was gonna compliment you on that, Chuck. I kept seeing the paddle pop up. I was like, hey, he hung on to it.
Always.
Over here. All right. Yep.
So they're rescuing more gear.
Let's get back.
I'm gonna scoot up. We were able to eddy out with 3 of us.
See, throw bag.
And the first thing I do is go
Situation here.
go climb up on the rocks and check and make sure everybody's come to shore after I catch my breath.
I'm used to, having the oar frame and the cooler and dry box and all that stuff in there. But it looks like this video is, it's all paddling.
A drowned rat. So we often will take a paddle raft on the Rogue River because we didn't have a raft club where everybody owned their own boat. So we'd take friends down and load up the gear boats and take a paddle raft.
How many, so you would bring say 8 people or whatever, and you'd have just one gear boat, or?
No, we'd have like 3 gear boats and 1 paddle raft and maybe a couple duckies.
Okay, cool. Okay.
This is going to show you the fish ladder. So this is Rainy Falls. It's way off the left of this picture. And you can see the fish ladder is an interesting proposition. There you can see Rainy Falls on the far left. The fish ladder's an interesting proposition because you pretty much go in there and just become a pinball. It's all in the setup. I typically ship my oars. This person didn't. Because you really can't use your oars in here, and I've had them just ripped out of my hands hitting the side. They take dories down this, and those dories they row the whole thing, and they have themselves positioned properly because there's all sorts of rocks in there. So that's the fish ladder. A little bit safer than over the falls. Eel Creek Canyon is where the river narrows down. And I had to find somebody else's video. This is actually on YouTube, and I couldn't download it, so it might be really choppy. Is that terribly choppy?
Okay, it's playing. It's a little choppy.
Mill Creek Canyon just gets so deep the current gets very squirrely. You get all sorts of current off of the sidewalls. It actually looks like it's a fairly high flow here, because that's pretty wide. This is a place called Coffee Pot in Mill Creek. See how that is boiling or percolating? I was once in a ducky going through Mill Creek Canyon, and Coffee Pot decided to suck the ducky out from under me. And I went down, the ducky was still, I was still sitting in the ducky. I went down to where only my head was above the water. And I still had the ducky. And I thought, well, I'm just going to go down to the bottom here. And then it decided to spit me back out. So that was just to give you an idea of Mule Creek Canyon. Let's see here.
Hey, Chuck just touched on this, but it's all those boiling eddies through there that really get you, especially if you're in a smaller boat, but it can still suck your big raft tubes down too.
Oh, I felt like my raft just one side will go down like 3 feet. Jennifer, you know exactly what I'm talking about, don't
I
you?
sure do.
It'll suck one side down, and it's just crazy. So this is Blossom Bar from the top. These are the, they don't have a name for these that I know of. This is the entry rocks. There's a wonderfully beautiful rock here, and this rock is pictured in the River Wild. Let me go to them. So then you've got Picket Fence is just down here. It's probably that rock. And then down at the bottom, you've got Volkswagen that you don't want to hit. Whoop. Here it is from the bottom. Oh, I don't have a good picture of that rock. This is an amazingly unique rock. You scout Blossom Bar on the right, and you have to come in here. So you're scouting it from up at these rocks. You have to come in here and pull hard to get, this is Picket Fence right here. And you come down this channel, and then you don't want to hit Volkswagen. And I've got a video of a pretty good run of a friend of mine. Oh, that's actually the same guy who went through the fish ladder. So he's pulling hard. He's getting near the end of those top rocks and coming up to Picket Fence. It's nice. There's a little calm water right there where you can get in a few extra strokes. And that's Picket Fence right below the bow of his raft.
That's beautiful. That's the crux move right there. That was beautiful.
Yep.
Also, when he was going through that, you could see a little bit of that rock that you said was really beautiful. It looks like it's like really carved away from the water, right?
Yep. And he's catching a little breather, but it's not over yet. Blossom Bar was much rockier until, I want to say about 1968, I think. Let me see, I've got some notes here. It doesn't have it in it. That's Volkswagen that he just kissed right there. Blossom Bar used to be much rockier, and a bunch of people died on it on one raft trip. And I don't know if it was done with a sanctioned event, but somebody went up there and dynamited a bunch of rocks out of this rapid. And I want to say it was 1968, but don't hold me to that. There's items of interest along the Rogue River. There's so many waterfalls, crazy. And there's waterfalls that you can hike up to just a few feet away, up to a quarter of a mile. I'm hoping some people have read some Zane Grey books that he wrote. God, he mass produced, he makes Stephen King look like a slacker. He wrote so many books about the Old West.
Riders of the Purple Sage
There you go.
by Zane Grey.
And he lived there on and off for a 10-year period and has a Unabomber shack up there. The Rogue River Ranch is a cool place to visit. It's got lots of historical artifacts from gold mining days. Tate Creek Falls has a water slide that's just wonderful. And then Floridel Falls is one of the last creeks that comes in before Foster Bar. And it's a beautiful, it's like almost like Havasu Creek blue. So here's just a few of the waterfalls. And these two, the top two on the left, are actually at Floridel Falls. And you can see it just as like a little heaven on earth kind of place. And then there's waterfalls that come into the river, and there's one you can get a shower out of, although it's really cold water, where you can do a head dunk, that middle bottom one. Just a quick picture of Zane Grey's cabin. And then the Rogue River Ranch. And you can actually camp. There's like 2 large campsites, maybe 3 large campsites right there where you can easily hike to the Rogue River Ranch. And they've got numerous buildings that you can go into and explore. Just kind of a fun diversion. And Tate Creek, this is the chute that you can see here. And they've actually installed a ladder that you can see over on the right-hand side to climb up this place. This dries up, gosh, after June. Don't know the exact date. You know, it varies year to year depending on what kind of moisture they're getting. And here's somebody. You can also do a lodge trip on the Rogue River. And I have done multiple lodge trips post-season. After October 15th, the lodges stay open for a little while longer. They mostly sell to fishermen, so you got to call really early. But you can do a lodge trip where you only have to carry, you know, a few clothes and day bags. It's just an amazing thing to be able to do. The lodges, the last time I went was maybe 5 years ago on a lodge trip. And for $125 per person, you got fed as much dinner and breakfast as you could eat. And you got to take a nice warm shower and sleep in a bed. So here's kind of the itinerary for that. There's really 2 main lodges that are working there. Paradise Bar Lodge they're both very cool. Black Bar Lodge has like an old Suzuki 2-cylinder Jeep that they use to shuttle the gear up to the lodge from the river. And Paradise Bar Lodge is way up on top of a hill, kind of a plateau on quite a ways up, maybe, I don't know, 150 feet up from the river. And they have placards stating the flood line was up to here in 1974. And there's a placard just below the patio of this lodge that says the flood was here, I think in 64. And I mean, this water, the volume of water coming down that river must have just been insane for that to be that high. It's something you really have to see to understand, but it's very impressive. I included some resources in here, and I can send these out to the club or something. And then I thought I'd offer up a Q&A session. And Rogue might join me too to do the Q&A.
Chuck, that was awesome. Thank you so much. I don't really have a lot of questions, but I really enjoyed it. And does Rogue look smaller is he in puppy form here?
The Rogue River, I got Rogue here in Colorado, and the Rogue River was actually the first river that Rogue went on, and he was 7 months old.
Oh.
So yeah, he's younger and smaller. Did you see him on my shoulders in that one group picture?
Of course I did.
I can't put him on my shoulders anymore like that.
I was impressed. I'm like, wow, Chuck's really strong. So
Thanks, Chuck. That was great.
You're welcome.
I want to go. When are you going to go? I want to go.
I don't know. This year's looking pretty full. Yeah. I'll reach out to people, but put in for those Rogue River permits and make an event out of it. Go run the river twice, or go stop and see all sorts of sights along the way that you might not have seen. There's it's just beautiful. It is. There's ferns with like 6 foot wide leaves on them and stuff. I like to say, if there's a place on earth where fairies and elves live, it would be on the Rogue River. It's just amazing. It's so lush. It can also be very wet. I've had whole trips where we never saw the sun. That just happens sometimes. But if you go in July or August, you're typically going to have real good weather. You'll be begging those jet boats to splash you. Anything else?
It sounds like you were saying that you've done it like back to back, like done like 2 or 3 runs of it. So that makes me think that maybe the permits are a little bit easier to come by than your average permitted river. Is that a good, like, a correct assumption to have, or?
This year is such a wonky year for permits. I don't know about this year, but there is I don't know if let me go back here. I think I've got, let me see if I can open that. Are you able to see my browser?
No.
Okay, I didn't. Let me stop share and share the browser. So this web page explains that they don't have any spaces open right now, but I don't know that they update this until the 4th or 5th, so that you can call, and you can look all summer long, and there will be spaces that open up. They'll have, somebody will have a trip that they said, I've got 14 people and only 10 will go.
Oh, so it's like there's just like it's not like a specific permit opened up. It was just that now there's 6 openings for 6 bodies to be on the river. Okay.
And that's where you can you know, if you're up in that area and you're camping at Alameda Bar or Indian Mary, you can just go to the ranger station and say, hey, did anybody not show up today? And quite often you can get on.
But if you want it, I mean, like, I'm not, unless I'm already out in Oregon,
Yes.
like, I wouldn't want to go drive all the way out there in hopes of maybe, you know, scoring a couple, you know, couple permits. And then, I mean, I guess we'd have a good time in Oregon anyways, but you know what I mean? Like, if you're going to pack meals and whatever and prepare for a trip, you're probably going to want to know you have the permit before you go.
Sure.
Are you able to get those, like, those abandoned permits, like, say, before you decide to go? Or is that something you just have to do at the spur of the moment kind of?
That's May 5th. And you can keep an eye on it all summer long. So yeah, they might report, you know, we're not going to go or something. And so some spaces open up. And so you just go watch this web page.
Chuck, what's your favorite time to go?
I like to go in early June because Tate Creek is still flowing. You have a higher likelihood of getting rained on. But gosh, July and August the temperature will reach 100 degrees there sometimes. And, you know, that's wonderful too. But you miss out on Tate Creek, and you maybe miss out on the waterfalls all along the river might be a little diminished in July and August. But
one thing else that I remember that you didn't mention is the requirement for lugging your stuff up to put in bear fence.
So that's been diminished. They do have a few bear containers for food and a few bear fences where there are bears, but it's not all along the river anymore. You used to have to do that.
Uh-huh.
Wayne must have scared them all away.
Yeah, that might be.
That was quite a burden if you had a heavy cooler to get people to lug it up and get it over that fence. Or I guess it opened, but you had to be inside that fence.
Yes, and I've seen bear there numerous times, typically on the other side of the river.
No, they're on River Right too. We have experience.
Hey, Chuck, we didn't talk really about all the amazing berries since we're talking about the bear and the other animals too, just being an animal lover, like lots of, like osprey every day flying along the river corridors, and bear almost every day it felt like when Wayne and Peggy and I were there. It was just, there's a lot of really vibrant, beautiful wildlife all around there too.
What time of year were you there?
I think it was late July.
Yeah. Yeah, and those berries aren't there in June. And they are wonderful. I've spent many an hour picking berries and eating them on the Rogue River. Yes.
So I got a question for you, Chuck. If you've got a larger group and you're splitting in two and sending a runner, what time are they heading out? Like, how early do you have to get going?
Get the runner out at 8 o'clock or something. You know, you've typically got like an early morning person who wakes up and gets the coffee going and is ready. And you can send just one person out as long as he's got a toilet system.
Good
Like,
deal.
if you don't get the, like, I mean, when you say that, you know, you send an early person out to go get, you know, your chosen camp spot, I mean, are there only a few decent camp spots and the rest are kind of lousy?
No, there's a bunch of nice campsites, but it's there's numerous campsites with creeks running through them where we've spent, you know, hours building a dam to make a swimming hole in the creek, or you've got the creek right there for easy freshwater access. But, you know, again, filter or add bleach to all your water. Nothing's safe anymore.
So it's not like you would be out of, like you'd end up having a lousy camp. It's just that if you want to take advantage of some of the really beautiful camps, then
Yes.
get, okay, I got you.
Sam
But
touched on this too. Some of them are very steep, like a big, like really hard to climb up and really, yeah, steep.
Yeah, and gosh, let me look at a map here. I've got a few. Jenny Creek is one of my favorite campsites on the river. It's river left, about mile 14. Down near the bottom, there's a bunch of creek camps right by Rogue River Ranch that are pretty easy access. And down near the bottom, thinking of another one. Gosh, which one is that? Bushy Bar, I think, is one of my favorite campsites as well. There's also a few lodges up there that are abandoned. They're for sale. And you can go putter around in them. That's kind of fun to go exploring. Rogue River is a good river for duckies. You know, I mentioned there's numerous class 3s, and the really only constraint for the class 3s is you need to have a good entry, but they're all read and run, and they're all duckyable. Blossom Bar is very duckyable. You can do the main route like the rafts. You've got extra maneuverability, or you can scoot off to the side.
I would imagine with Rainy Falls, a ducky could easily do the fish ladder. I mean,
Yes.
that seems like an obvious,
Yeah.
very easy route, right?
Yep.
I probably wouldn't want to go over 15 feet. A ducky, maybe in a raft, not a ducky, or a hard shell. Maybe I'll do a hard shell, but not a ducky.
I've learned that you don't run Rainy Falls at 2,500 CFS. I've done that twice in a paddle raft captaining, and I've probably gone over Rainy Falls a dozen times, but both times at 2,500 CFS, it sucked me right out of the back, along with the next few people in front of me.
Have you always done it as a paddler?
No, I've done it many times.
In an
oar
oar?
rig. Oh, Rainy Falls?
Yeah. I mean, I'm wondering if you would have had the same trouble if you had been rowing.
So I ran Rainy Falls at 8,000 CFS in an oar boat, because it just kind of pushed everything out. It was going so fast. It was not a sudden drop. So that was an easy one.
When you said that you don't run Rainy Falls at 2,500 CFS, are you saying like there was a way of portaging, or you're just saying that that's probably not the best level to go do the river?
You do the fish ladder.
Oh, okay, I see. I got you. Okay. You're not saying you don't do the Rainy Falls Rapid, period. You're just saying you take a different route.
Yes.
Okay.
The waterfall is very unforgiving at 2,500 CFS. It's somehow it gets easier at like 1,500, and above about 4,000 and above, it gets easier.
Well, thanks a lot, Chuck, for doing this and putting this presentation together. This was really, really informative.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I want to do the road now.
Well, what we need to do is have everybody put in for a rogue permit like 5 days apart, and we can make a trip up there and go do the Rogue River like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Pandemics interfere.
Hey, I'm vaccinated. I get to go outdoors without wearing a mask.
Awesome. Well, everyone give a big round of applause for Chuck.
Thank you.
That was really good, Chuck. A really good job. That was really nice.
I
Thank
really
you.
liked all the photos and the videos. That really
Yeah.
gives you a feel for it. It's
Yep.
beautiful.
It was a great river.
And I didn't show images that captured the beauty of it. I mean, I showed the river. Looking at the shoreline, it's just magical. The trees and the plant, the flora.
You know, like how like the salmon, for example, is much different than like say these Western rivers that we do, because there's all that greenery and pine trees and all that kind of stuff. Is it similar looking to the salmon, or is it a totally different? I guess it's Oregon, so it's even wetter there, right?
It's
So
even wetter, and there's more deciduous trees, and ferns and big
Just big trees.
big plants with leaves and stuff. It's just lush.
nice.
Well, thanks everyone. And thanks again, Chuck, for putting this together.
Thank you for putting up with me for half an hour.
It was
That
fun.
was great.
All right, well, I'll stop recording here and I'll make this available offline. So if we had about 18 participants, so that's pretty good turnout. So anyway,
Oh, Jennifer,
Yep.
did you want to say something, Jennifer, or you're waving?
You. Bye, everybody.
You're welcome.
Bye.
We'll see you on the river.
Good
all right,
night.
see ya.
Bye.